to work. I wasn't ready in regards to the nursery. Everything was in boxes in a room. So all of that set aside, I had read a lot of books. I felt like I was prepared in that sense. But when she came, I really struggled with what to do with her all day. And the first few weeks, obviously, you're just trying to keep them alive.
Self-alive.
But it wasn't until about a month in that I felt like I wasn't maximizing my time. And coming from a very stressful marketing job that I was go, go, go all the time, doing multiple things. I mean, the amount of stuff that I got done in a day at that job is just like blows my mind now. You look at it going from that to staring at this infant. And I just really had some struggling on how to, make sure that I was doing the best job that I could as a new mom. Now that I wasn't in that marketing position, this was my new job. And I just felt like I didn't have the resources to know exactly what to do, even though I had read the books.
Right. What kinds of books had you read? Because I feel like a lot of people, when they're pregnant, they, and myself included, read all about, like, if you're interested in birth, read about birth, right? What is birth going to be like? Because you've never done that before.
Well, I was scared of birth, so I avoided that topic altogether. Had no birth plan, luckily, because it didn't go as planned. The books that I read were healthy sleeping, really the science behind why the babies need the sleep, how much they should be getting. And, so I really liked knowing why they need the sleep and that, nap times are different sleep than nighttime sleep. And I read a lot of breastfeeding stuff because I was planning on breastfeeding, which also didn't go as planned. I read a lot on your first week by week of baby's first year. So just kind of the general.
A nice gamut, actually. You were quite quote unquote prepared as.
Yeah. I thought.
Right, exactly. Let's hear about that.
But it never really talked about what to do with your baby all day. It talked about what to do for diaper rash. It talked about what to do for a fever, teething, but there wasn't really anything about connecting with your baby or skin to skin or singing or any of that stuff. And my mom was, a huge part of the first few weeks when my husband had to go to work. So, I was watching her with my baby and she was singing songs to her and doing voices and all, and I was just like, I don't even know that nursery rhyme. I don't know the words. And so I just kind of sat back and watched. And the more and more I watched her, the more I was learning. But then she'd leave, and so I was like, oh gosh, I just, should I be singing to her? How often should I be singing to her? Why should I be singing to her? What can I be doing with her right now when she can't even really turn her head? So I was really looking for guidance on that. That's when I actually found the Strength in Words podcast.
Woo-hoo.
And I'm not sure exactly how I found. I think I was Googling podcasts because at that time I couldn't read, right? Because your hands are full. So I needed something in my ear and wanted it to be baby related. So found that. And then I started noticing it was something that I could do with her every day. And since there's so many episodes, I really went back, started at the beginning. So it was something that I could sing the hello song to her. And as you went through one or two different songs, I would learn them with her. She had no idea what was going on at that time, but it was something I could do for me and for her at the same time.
Exactly.
And I really liked that it became part of our routine. So we did one a day for many days. And it is funny because if I sing the hello song to her now, she stops and she recognizes that song because she heard it every day for months. So as I started listening to that, I remember emailing you a year ago and saying, this is exactly what I needed. And, I just hadn't found anything like that. And I felt like I was just really connecting to everything you were saying. I was part of a lot of Facebook support groups in regards to breastfeeding because I was having issues with that, breastfeeding groups here in town. And I was meeting new people, but it was just so surface. I didn't feel like we were really getting down and dirty of okay, how are you singing to her in a day? Or what different songs? Or any of that stuff. So
right.
I felt like it was there were always a few know-it-alls in the room that, I don't know, I just didn't really connect. So from there, did the whole podcast and then reached out to you. And then you had the email program where there was like, oh, you can read more on this and read more on that. And so I just I just couldn't get enough. I was just like, anything you had to offer, I wanted to read. And I started learning a lot, in regards to songs, which I know it's not just about music, but at that time, that really was kind of what I was looking for. But also, understanding how she was developing and learning. And in your book, you mentioned that we feel more empowered as a parent with the more knowledge that we have about that development. And that couldn't be more true. I was really good at my job before I had a baby because I knew it inside and out. And when I started to be a parent, I didn't feel confident in what I was doing. It felt right. It felt genuine, but I just wanted to make sure I was making the most out of every moment that I was home with her.
Tell me more about that empowerment. What did it feel like those kinds of resources empowered you to feel or to do?
I would say knowing the science behind why to do it made me feel more comfortable in doing it and repeating it. I'm not sure if that's answering the question, but
totally. I think that is really a big piece of it, because a lot of times we sing because our babies respond to it, or we sing because it's what we see our moms doing or our families doing or somebody else doing, or because a commercial told us to do it. But yeah, I agree. When we understand a little bit about why to do it, and not by reading an entire book about infant development, but little snippets of information here and there that you can get that are easily digestible, then it allows us to say, oh, okay, right, this is actually improving our connection. This is her cognitive development. This is addressing all of these specific things, and that's why I should do it.
Or like, I guess a few examples would be activities that you recommended, ones that we had talked about previously, blowing bubbles and what that does for them. So, eye tracking, being able to talk about the bubbles and maybe hoping that they're starting to get some head movement, encouraging that, and, the social smile and all of those kinds of things, all within, that's one way to do it. I'm not just blowing bubbles at her. Here are things that we're looking for or encouraging with that activity. So that part I really liked. And in the book, you do go through, here are things to try, but here's what to look for while you're doing them, or here's what to focus on while you're doing them.
So tell me a little bit more. Let's go back to, because you mentioned the kinds of communities that you have been part of. What was appealing to you about the community lab and having something like an online community? Because you also mentioned you've been part of Facebook groups and different kinds of online communities before. What was different for you about what the community lab was going to be all about?
So the communities that I was a part of were very focused on certain topics. The only one that got a little broader was the Wonder Weeks. You could pick the month that your baby was born. And that was a great way to see how different every baby is at a certain time. I just felt like it was just all over the board, And again, these groups are so huge, you're never really going to connect with anybody. You're really just kind of comparing yourself to their situation, maybe offering advice here and there, but you're not building relationships with 20,000 members of a group. So the community lab was something that I actually wasn't out searching for. I was really in it for all of the resources that you had. And when you started the community, I was like, well, this is nice. I mean, I'm surrounding myself with moms that have very similar mindsets. They all want to, if you look at some of the members in the group, they all are trying to be the best moms that they can and have really creative ways of engaging with their babies. And it all is about their development and, those interactions, playing with the baby. Whereas some of these other groups are, again, just all over the board. And you may not agree with a lot of what they're saying. I really felt like as the community grew, I was like, wow, I really have a